Hey, YouTube. I got 5 things to talk about today. Few different categories. I expect things are going to start speeding up in terms of how often I post these types of videos because our pool has closed forever, as you may know by pictures and videos on my channel. So I'm going to all of a sudden have a lot more time on my hands. Well, not a lot more, but I'm not going to be swimming anymore, that's for sure. So I got to fill that void with something else. And why not read, watch, game, all the things that I like to do, right? So we should be hopefully picking up steam in this regard in the near future. But first up, we got a couple books. The first one is called Mistborn, the first of a trilogy of books. I think this one's called subtitled The Final Empire, something like that, but it doesn't say that anymore. But I think that's what it is. A girl at work actually recommended this to me, and as we got talking about certain sci-fi things, we figured out recently that we're both kind of nerdish, and so we started exchanging ideas and experiences, and she recommended this trilogy by this author, Brandon Sanderson. This book takes place in a kind of, I don't know, mythical kind of land called the Final Empire. All these lands are under the Final Empire, and the capital city, the middle zone, is the main city, castle, whatever, is a town called Luthadel, and this land is it's kind of a barren, drab kind of world. The plants aren't green and vibrant like they are here. They're brown. They're kind of dull and lifeless. At night, these strange mists come out, and everybody's afraid of them. It's very hard to see. And also, there's always an ash fall coming down from the sky that people are always cleaning up due to the volcanoes and that kind of activity. So it's kind of a grim kind of world. And the Lord Ruler is the ultimate emperor who rules over this whole land, and it keeps the nobility in check, who rule over the Skaws, who are basically like slaves and stuff like that. So it's a harsh world in many different regards. And the Lord Ruler actually, in the past, was the hero of the land because he apparently saved the land from this threat called the Deepness, which nobody really knows what it is. And through his heroism, saved the land and eventually became its kind of ruler. So there's a strange type of magic in this land called allomancy. So these people called mistings can swallow a certain type of metal, and that metal will give them certain powers. Mistborn have access to all the powers. They can swallow metals and kind of internally burn them and gain powers from each type of metal. The metals allow them to have like super strength and durability, heighten their senses. It allows them to push and pull things, metal things, so that they can essentially use metal as anchors to like jump really high and that sort of thing. So they can use all these different metals to do things. So we pick up in this book, and there's this guy named Kelsier, who is a Mistborn, and who is the only person to ever have survived the pits of Hathsin. So the pits are where the Lord Ruler mines the most precious of these metals that give people, I forget what the metal's called at this point, but it gives you a glimpse into the future. So like if you're fighting with somebody and you're burning this metal, you see them doing what they're going to do next before they even know they're doing it. So it gives you kind of this almost like brief time travel a few seconds in the future to know what's going to happen, sort of thing. So but working in the pits of Hathsin is very dangerous, and especially if you're not productive, you'll get killed, sort of thing. So Kelsier is the only one to have survived these pits, and he has a score to settle because his wife was killed in these pits, and he wants to take the Lord Ruler down and free the land, destroy the nobility. So he's coming up with a plan to do this. As he's doing this, he runs into this young girl named Vin, who was working on this thieving crew, and she is also a Mistborn. And he's like, "Oh, this girl is interesting. So he kind of takes her under his wing and starts training her in all the different aspects of allomancy. While he's doing this, he's assembling a team of trusted associates, all of which, not all of which, but some of which are mistings and can burn a certain type of metal to do a certain type of job. And so he needs these type of people on his team to perform certain jobs. So they're amassing an army in the north that they're going to use to kind of attack the city, and after they start some chaos and get the Legion out of the city and that sort of thing. So they've got this grand scheme in order to raid the city, take it over, and then eventually Kelsier is going to have this showdown with the Lord Ruler, who apparently is immortal. He can't be killed, but Kelsier is aware of an 11th metal, a secret metal that he believes is the key to defeating the Lord Ruler. So that's his kind of basic plan. So all I'm going to say is that there's a lot of twists and turns at the end of this book, and it doesn't really go how you think it's going to go. And I had a couple of like shocked gasp moments, like I was like, what the fuck just happened, right? And although I'm not very happy about some of the events that happen at the end of the book, they definitely were a surprise and threw me for a bit of a loop. So I appreciate them in that way because it's very good storytelling. This book is a big one, but it doesn't look like a big one, but it is a big one. But you fly through it. It's just a complete page turner. What the hell is that down there? Huh, some sort of bug. So I'm definitely going to buy the other two books in this trilogy and finish it off because I loved it. Amanda made a fantastic recommendation, that's for sure. The other book is Predator, Eyes of the Demon. This is a collection of 15 short stories from like a bunch of sci-fi authors. So I'm not going to get into all of them, obviously, because that's a lot of stories. But this book was released, I believe, in 2022. It's pretty recent, and it features a lot of big names. None of the ones I recognize on the front, but there are quite a few in here of authors that have written for Star Wars, for other Alien and Predator type things that I've read before and I really enjoy. So I'm going to mention 3 of the stories in this book because, like I said, not enough time and not a good enough memory to go through all 15. But the 3 I liked best was, in one, a predator goes to this world and on one of their hunts, as they do, looking for some really tough game to hunt. And he ends up running against this alien race that are basically just a bunch of pussies. They don't even try and fight back. They just kind of face their violent fate with kind of like a grin and a whatever. And he's like, well, this was a bust. Like, this wasn't even a challenge. They didn't even try, like, right? So he gets back onto the ship and he takes a trophy with him, one of their heads or whatever, and he puts it in the little place where he keeps his trophies. And eventually one day the skull disappears and he's like, what the fuck, do I have an intruder on my ship, sort of thing, right? So he's looking all around and he can't find anybody. So then eventually he realizes that these aliens have a mystical kind of capability to them, and then this alien that has gone to the netherworld of the Force, let's say, ends up basically eroding this predator's ship around him and destroying him that way. So in the end, the foe was quite formidable, just not in the way the predator was thinking he was going to be, right? So that was pretty cool, kind of a mystical sort of thing. Another one was actually featured Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger from the original Predator movie, kind of right after the original Predator movie ended. So they're kind of keeping him in quarantine and in confinement, trying to interrogate him. A couple of stooge FBI guys or whatever, some government guys, some suits, if you will, trying to get to the bottom of what happened and what he knows. And he wants nothing to do with these clowns. And so eventually he escapes because he hears there's another predator in the area. And he's like, well, we can't let this thing run on the loose. So he goes after it. He escapes, goes after it, and ends up meeting up with these suits again. And there's kind of this showdown. So it was just kind of neat to see what happened to Dutch after being, one of the 2 survivors of the original Predator movie, kind of what happened to him afterwards, right? So I thought that was kind of a nice little tie-in to this collection. And then the other one was kind of cool because it actually centered around this group of, I think, 4 people who all were, I forget where it was, maybe out in Seattle or, yeah, Pacific Northwest somewhere, maybe, I can't remember exactly, but they're going off on this expedition to try and find Bigfoot and or Sasquatch or whoever. And in the end, they end up finding a Yautja, or a predator, if you will. But there may be just another surprise. The one they were looking for might also get involved somehow. So it was kind of neat that it was kind of this goofy tie-in, like Predator, but also Bigfoot, which, you know, this mythical creature. But I don't know why that's so strange when you're talking about a predator as well, because they're both mythical creatures, right? So I thought that was kind of cool how they tied in a story about Bigfoot with Predator, and kind of the way they wrote it. It was really neat. So I thought that was a really cool story. So those were kind of my 3 favorite, but the whole collection was really good, and you know, all the stories were good in their own way, but those 3 stood out to me kind of the most. Next up, Power Rangers Wild Force. This series was the Power Rangers series from 2002, and features 40 episodes. And in it, it starts off by focusing on this kid named Cole, this young man named Cole, and he was kind of orphaned, and we see him trekking through, uh, looking for his parents. He's got this photo of his parents, and he's searching for them. And he comes to Turtle Cove, and stumbles upon this place called the Animarium, which is like a floating island in the sky shaped like a turtle. And so there he discovers a woman named Princess Shayla, who is the overseer of the wild Zords that reside on the Animarium, as well as 4 Power Rangers. Let's see if I can remember their names. There's Taylor, Alyssa, Max, and Danny. So Cole ends up meeting up with all these people and ends up becoming the Red Ranger, the leader of these Wild Force Rangers. Now, as for the enemies in this series, my shoulder is so itchy. I think I got too much sun this summer, and it's just permanently itchy. It's driving me fucking nuts. The orgs are the enemies. They're kind of these horned freaks that are out to get the Rangers, they hate nature, they're made from pollution, and they're just the exact opposite of what the nature-loving Wild Force Power Rangers are all about. So that's who they come to blows with in this series. And the head one of these orgs is Master Org, and he eventually has some sort of tie-in with Cole's past. Cole's parents went missing. They were scientists in Turtle Cove. They went missing on this expedition. Cole was also thought missing on this expedition, but survived. And also along on this expedition was the Cole's parents' friend and fellow researcher, a guy named the last name of Adler or something like that. And over time, Cole realizes that Master Org and Mr. Adler have some sort of close connection, let's say. So he eventually does get to the bottom of what happened to his parents and whatnot, as the battles against Master Org and his forces continue. Also for the bad guys, there's Gindrax and Toxica, his kind of main stooges, but they eventually turn on him as he gets up to no good and summons all the freaks that are always the enemies in the Power Rangers series, and the big suits and stuff. I love the Power Rangers costumes are like out of this world. I fucking love it. They're so good. So eventually, like, the series is just straight up regular Power Rangers, as they the Power Rangers face off against, you know, their sets of enemies, and eventually find a way to beat them and save the day, and then not be Power Rangers anymore. That seems to be the formula for it. So now there's always an episode that brings back the previous season's cast. So the Time Force Rangers showed up in this one for an episode, as did the enemies that the Time Force Rangers faced in their series, who ended up kind of coming over to the good side in the end. That was Ransik and his daughter Nadira. So they also showed up with the Time Force Rangers. But the best one was when they brought back the Red Rangers only from every Power Rangers series that came before. So every single Red Power Ranger from the series that came before showed up for an episode. I can't remember exactly what the storyline was, but something was happening and it required all of their help. And it was kind of cool to see a representative from each series up to that point in an episode, right? Like I thought that was really cool. And they probably thought, Power Rangers was getting pretty deep in terms of series at this point. So they're probably like, we should probably do it while everybody is still alive, not in jail, whatever, right? Because shit happens, right? So that was kind of cool. So this was a really good series. I have a hard time kind of determining which is my favorite Power Rangers series. There's always elements I like about each series, whether it's some of the actors that play some of the Rangers or certain enemies from each series that stand out to me in terms of their costume and kind of their capabilities and stuff like that. But I enjoyed it, let's say, just as much as I did all the rest of them. And I'm trying to figure out. I forgot to. So I haven't watched the OG Power Rangers series yet because before I started watching these, like when I first started watching these series, I hadn't been able to collect all of the seasons to that one because that's the only series of Power Rangers that has gone multiple seasons. All the rest since then were always just one season, one-off shows sort of thing. So I didn't have all the different seasons of the original Power Rangers yet, and I also didn't have the one that comes after it, the Zeo or Neo or Zeo or something like that. So I think it goes OG Power Rangers, and then there was a short spin-off that featured the original Power Rangers called the Alien Rangers. And then there was the Power Rangers Zeo. So there's those first kind of three incarnations of the Rangers that I haven't watched yet. And then I picked up with Turbo, which was, I'm just going to go look at them right now. So after that, it was Power Rangers Turbo. And then Power Rangers in Space, then Lost Galaxy, then Lightspeed Rescue, then Time Force. So this is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is basically the 9th incarnation of the Power Rangers. So not the 9th season, but the 9th kind of series type sort of thing. So that's kind of where we stand. And I haven't started on the next series yet, but I've got it on my bedside table queued up to go into my portable DVD player that I watch them in at night. So we'll soon be started on the next one. And I'm not going to tell you what that is yet. You're going to have to wait and find out. We're going to finish this off with 2 video games. I don't have the hard copies because they are both digital downloads. The first one is The Last of Us for the PlayStation 4. So The Last of Us was originally released in 2013 by Naughty Dog, who did the Uncharted series, which me and Jim are fucking loved. I still like Uncharted better than Last of Us, but Last of Us is like this close because it's really good. Originally it was on the PS3 and also the PS4. The one we played is a I think a remastered version of it. So, but basically the story is it actually takes place in the year 2013. Where I can't remember what the actual fungus outbreak is called, but basically a fungal outbreak occurs on Earth, and it turns whoever gets their blood tainted by it or breathes in spores of it, they become what people call the infected. So they basically turn into these freaks, and there's different stages of mutation where at first they still look human, but they're just kind of like zombies, right? And then as the fungal growth takes over, they lose their features and they become things called clickers that are harder to kill, and they can beef up into these really big ones that are even harder to kill. So the way it starts off is you play as you control a guy named Joel. So Joel lives with his daughter Sarah, and the night the outbreak happens, he tries to escape some of the infected attacking him and his daughter, along with his brother Tommy. And in the end, they almost escape, and they make it to like a military, I think, pickup point where helicopters are waiting and stuff like that. but the soldier that greets them there gets instructions to off them because they don't know if they're infected or not. So Joel kind of tries to escape, but Sarah gets killed in the action, and Joel is obviously despondent about that. So flash forward a few years later, 20 years later. It goes forward quite a bit. Um, and maybe it's not 20. I don't remember, but it's significantly later. And the world is now, people live in kind of these quarantine zones that are patrolled by the military. And so life is very strict and rule oriented and grim and not nearly what it was before the outbreak. And Joel actually now operates as a smuggler, along with his partner Tess. Um, so they're in the middle of a job of, I think, acquiring some sort of weapon cache, from the Fireflies, this group of kind of militants, I guess. And The job doesn't go that well, and the product isn't there. They end up talking to this girl named Marlene. Marlene, I think, who is, I think, a representative of the Fireflies, and she kind of explains what happened, and um, she says, you know what, we'll still give you the job, we'll still let you do it, and we'll sweeten the pot if you help smuggle this girl, this young girl named Ellie, outside of the quarantine zone to the Fireflies. So they reluctantly, Joel agrees to do it. So they set off, and along the way, they discover that Ellie, the young girl, has actually been bitten 3 weeks ago and hasn't become infected. So she's immune. So she's a very important person at this point, obviously, because she has some sort of immunity. And if they can tap into whatever that is, maybe a cure can be fixed up, right? Sort of thing. So along the way, Tess gets infected and she has to sacrifice herself in order to help Joel and Ellie escape. So then from that point on, it's just you and Ellie making your way towards the Fireflies and whatever. And the whole time, Joel is ready to just like get Ellie to the next point where somebody can take her and then fuck off and be done with it. But of course, and so because of that, their relationship is kind of contentious at times, because she can tell that he just wants to get rid of her. But over time, as they travel together and stuff like that, they begin to genuinely bond and have affection for each other. And when Joel eventually finds his brother Tommy, he thinks Tommy can help get Ellie to the Fireflies better than he can. But ends up having a change of heart, and so he plays out the rest of the game, by trying to help Ellie get to this, to get to the Fireflies and hopefully get this cure developed. But the game takes a twist at the end, and things don't quite work out the way they were planning, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But like I said, Naughty Dog hit another one out of the park with Last of Us. How many Uncharted games did they do? 5, including the one with the girls. All 5 of those games were fantastic, and Last of Us is every bit as good. I probably just like Uncharted because I played it first, and that was my first impression of the Naughty Dog kind of way. But Last of Us is pretty much every bit as good. It's so much fun, and so violent. Oh, I love violence. Anyways, that is The Last of Us. So the last of the games we're going to talk about today is another download, this time for the Nintendo Switch, and it is called River City Girls. So River City Girls is a tie-in, I guess, to the River City Ransom game, which was an NES title way back in the day. I don't know, maybe it was an arcade game too, I don't know. But it kind of flips the script from the original game. So a pair of girls named Kyoko and Misako, I think it is, their boyfriends get kidnapped, or at least they feel like their boyfriends have been kidnapped. And so they set off on a quest to get them back. So it's also a tie. I read online that it's a tie-in to some other super dodgeball soccer game or something like that. Like Misako and Kyoko are actually characters in these other games. So I've never actually seen it written that it's a tie-in to River City Ransom, but I don't know how it's not, because it's pretty much the exact same thing and style of game sort of thing. But so anyways, so you set off through River City in an effort to find your boyfriend. So you're always trying to track down leads, and you find out something, but then it doesn't work out. But then you're tasked with, oh, do this for me, and then I'll give you more information, or I'll steer you this direction, or whatever. So you're always on a quest of trying to complete tasks for people and getting information on the whereabouts of your boyfriends. As you go, there's lots of weapons you can use in the game. There's lots of different shops you can go to as you earn money when you defeat enemies. You can buy like health items to upgrade, to refill your health. You can buy a whole bunch of moves you can do that increases your kind of arsenal of offense and when you're beating people down, and a bunch of other things you can purchase as well. So you just have to, you know, improve your character as much as you can, as the enemies in the game get tougher and tougher, and eventually track down the person who is at fault for this little situation. Although, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. It's very Three's Company in the fact that, you know, maybe there's a bit of a misunderstanding in this game. So that's all I'm going to say. But either way, this game was so much fun. There's a great bit of humor in it. Lots of cool cutscenes, and the game is done in that old side-scrolling 16-bit kind of style. So they really made it a true ode to those early games, River City Ransom and stuff like that. And most of all, the game is super fun, and it's two-player. So what is better to, well, at least to my generation of gamers, what is better than a two-player super fun game? Nothing. Meow.